I, 52F, have been with my boyfriend, 53M, for 30 years, and last night after dinner, he finally proposed to me. He simply walked towards me holding a box and asked me to open it. Inside was a ring, and I had pictured this moment a million times, but I never thought I'd feel so apathetic. My boyfriend then said that he was retired, not by choice by the way, but I'll get to that, and wanted to kick back and enjoy life with me, and he would love to do it all with me as his wife. It was a nice speech and all, but since the 5-year mark of our relationship, I had been expressing my deep desire to get married, but I was consistently dismissed, given empty promises, and gaslit. We had been through the gamut with therapy, and one counselor implied that my efforts in getting him to attend therapy meant nothing if his mind was already made up. I was in denial about the fact that he was merely giving me the false illusion of progress to stall. Then let's also talk about the fact that we have 4 kids together. The oldest 3 are adults, while the youngest is a 15-year-old girl, who was sleeping over elsewhere when this all occurred. All of our kids attended a private school filled with typical Southern soccer parents. I had to endure jabs from PTA moms about not sharing a last name with my kids. The preteen years were hell because other kids would taunt mine by saying, "Your dad would rather sin and go to hell than marry your mom." My boyfriend's mom would tell him that marriage would be selfish on my part, that it's just a piece of paper. My boyfriend ended up rising through the ranks until he became an executive. I was a stay-at-home mom, so I felt like there was always a power imbalance, exacerbated by the fact that I could be dismissed any time. I partly stayed because I wanted my kids to have the best life and because I felt lucky and proud to be partnered with such an intelligent, successful man, but also because I loved him. These past few years, my boyfriend's career has taken a downturn. He will never be poor, but the company he was part of took a nosedive during 2020, and he made enemies out of associates and board members. He decided to step back from his role and accept the generous severance package they offered. Now, he is living off his investments and wants to relax. I did not like how his career ended and how he treated people. I had been deciding whether I wanted to leave and find somebody else after our youngest turns 18. So, the proposal was a shock because I hoped that he noticed I have been avoiding conversations about the future as of late. He rattles on about downsizing our house so we can travel and also cutting back on our other expenses, but we're not married so it's all his money and house anyway. He noticed my eye roll and was offended. He asked what was wrong, and I said that suddenly, now that he's downsizing, I'm good enough to marry. He got mad and said that now that he's downsizing and no longer an executive, I suddenly think our relationship is disrespectful, and started implying that I was a gold digger. I was so angry that I walked out and said I might just go out looking for a respectful relationship because I don't know what respect is anymore. Am I really in the wrong here? Update 1. At the time of my original post, my boyfriend and I had not spoken since the engagement fight. I've been with him long enough to know that when he closes the bedroom door before I get in, that's a signal for me to sleep in one of the guest rooms, so I did that. However, this morning I broke the ice. I told him about how dismissed I felt over the years. I also mentioned that we are both in our 50s, and these last few years have taught us that people at work who kiss the ground you walk on one day can easily turn on you the next. And true partners in life are valuable and hard to find, so I wished he'd treat me like I'm valued. Instead, he treats me like he thinks someone prettier, better, and just as loving is always around the corner. I apologized for the eye roll but told him that if he wants marriage, I want a quick committed timeline and genuine happiness from him to be marrying me. I don't need a big party. He listened to me and finally asked if this was about the money and security. He told me that being an executive's girlfriend required certain things of me, but if I wanted to work, I could have. He said he doesn't think I'm grateful enough for the position in society I was in due to his career. But he's not mad about the eye roll. He said he didn't succeed by being that sensitive. He went on to say I was not his prisoner, so I can leave at any time, but to remember, he won't tolerate being made my prisoner either through manipulation. He said that, for what it's worth, the engagement ring is mine and I could do whatever I wanted with it. He will also not be accused of not providing for his daughter, so rest assured he won't shirk child support, but he felt what I said before was emotional blackmail. So, he no longer wants to go forward with marrying, but says if I'd like to travel with him, that's fine. His traveling is non-negotiable, so if I wanted to get a job, it would have to be remote. It was a sad conversation, and I spent a few hours alone after that. I felt I had nothing to lose, so I just asked him if he would support me in getting an associate's degree, but that most associate's programs for technical careers were in person. He then said that if I wasn't traveling with him, don't be surprised when other women want to satisfy his urges in bed. I was astounded by his callousness because he's back to a take-it-or-leave-it attitude. We fought again, with me saying we're all feeling the effects of age, that I've supported him through health issues, and if he thinks he can just find somebody who has the loyalty I've shown him, he's wrong. At this point, I'm looking for ways out. I can't say I haven't been tempted to say I'll travel with him and try to get a remote job, but I also realize how resentful I am that he continues to need to have the power in the relationship. I don't think I'll ever truly know my value, but something tells me there has to be something better out there, at least in a partner. Update 2. It's been over a month since I last posted, and my life has changed drastically. I really wish this update could have been positive. I'm not doing well, but what remains is hope. Hope in the kindness of others, my grown kids, employers, courts, even my kid's dad. Hope in the value of love that I've given so freely to my kids' dad, because I was raised to believe that even those who don't appreciate the love I've given them will eventually self-actualize and pay it back. Here's what has happened since. Since my kid's dad accused me of trying to keep him emotionally imprisoned, I tried to show him that I valued his freedom. I gave him his space and showed that I could live life without trapping him. I started doing that right after our discussion, and his reaction was anger. After our talk, he started glaring and picking fights over everything: the speed at which I did housework, my spending within his set allowance, which he promptly cut to nearly zero. He even asked for the ring back during an argument. I took the comments on my post to heart. In particular, advice telling me that if I was badgered, I should refuse to leave the house. Just a few days after our conversation about the engagement, he picked a fight and accused me of ignoring him. He said he wanted me out, and I said no, that I deserved to be here. He responded by having a lawyer send me a notice telling me to vacate that day. It happened so quickly that I was too shocked to react. My kids were torn between dad's bluffing and try to leave, but now he's filed to evict, so it's up to the courts now. I tried looking for legal aid, but the person I talked to was cold and implied that my status as a mom and partner wouldn't protect me from eviction. I've tried sending out applications for office jobs but was told by friends to be kind to myself because if one rejection comes, something better will be along. My adult kids suggested I apply for food stamps, and I haven't out of shame. They said if I do and dad and I no longer live together, the government will help me collect child support. My grown kids said they can't risk upsetting their father. My oldest told me a gas station was hiring for the night shift, and he'd try to help once he graduated. Just when I decided to be grateful for the job, they rejected me after an interview where I feel I spoke well. That hurt, but I keep having hope because every day there are new remote and non-remote jobs posted, saying they'll train the right candidate. I'm applying to every corporation it seems, with hope that one of them will take a chance on me, give me an interview that I will ace, and see me as someone pulling herself up. I know my boyfriend wants me to beg, but I don't know if that would make him drop the suit. I just don't know anymore. I am in my corner of the house trying to keep things normal and applying like it's a job. I don't know what else to say, but that ends my update for now. I maintain hope and dignity. Update 3. The unconscionable has happened. A judge is letting my ex-boyfriend evict me. A judge who is supposed to uphold the laws of fairness, morality, and for years I assumed kindness, found in favor of my ex-boyfriend. My head is spinning. I have not found a job yet, and I did everything right. I applied to hundreds upon hundreds of marketing jobs online. I've gotten 3 responses, but those responses ask me to download communication apps to do the interview, and their instructions are so hard to understand. I don't do well with non-concrete directions, so I got too aggravated to respond. However, at this point, I'm desperate enough to interview even there. I have taken the advice to apply to non-marketing jobs. My older daughter wrote me a resume for an office assistant job at a church that only offered 8 to 10 hours a week at $2 over minimum wage. I got called for an interview, and the pastor of all people seemed disappointed after seeing me and greeted me with a different tone than he greeted the next applicant who came in, a woman in her mid-20s. Horrible behavior from a mid-30s man. He even called me ma'am in this apprehensive tone. I did not get the job, but I feel bad for whoever does. I only have a few days before a sheriff arrives. I called my kids for help. My legal aid attorney predicted I'd only get visitation until I have a stable place, and child support would likely be enough to only partially pay for living in a motel, so I needed to quickly get a job. How can the world treat a mom like this? My adult kids arranged to meet me and told me there's a reason even their grandma called my ex an alley cat. They offered to sneak food from dining halls when I visit and lend me clothes for interviews, but said their dad laid down the law with regards to sending money. They said that it's not my fault, and they've seen it themselves as they grew up, where they faced bullying and watched people like me who are kind be scorned. And in all that instability, accomplishments and money were the only constants, and that has made them emotionally apathetic. But it's hard to fix because it goes hand in hand with the overactive sense of self-preservation they've acquired. They blame it on watching how self-preservation got their dad far, and the lack of it crushed others. I was able to sell the few things that my ex did not bother to claw away from me, and I have enough to book a room at a motel for about a week, but after that, I don't know. I asked my newly 16-year-old if she'd want to stay with me when I get a motel room. She started crying and begging her dad to let me stay. I will fight for custody with every ounce of strength I have, but I'm guessing her siblings are telling her to enlist self-preservation and stay with her dad. I understand, I do, but she still needs her mom. I'm in contact with a shelter. Hopefully, I can find somebody who will fight for me to get housing, but I don't know what my future holds.